Most travelers visit Iceland's Golden Circle the same way. They leave Reykjavik, stop at the famous places, take the photos and return. But after doing this 10-hour route with a 1,200 euros private tour, I realized that the real Golden Circle experience is not only about Thingvellir National Park, Geysir Geothermal Area and Gullfoss Waterfall. It is also about the roads, the hidden stops, the weather, the costs, and the small decisions that can completely change your day. In this Iceland travel vlog, I'll show you the famous stops, quieter places like Bruarfoss Waterfall and Faxafoss, what we really spent, what I would do differently, and how to plan a Golden Circle Iceland itinerary that actually feels worth it. On our second day in Iceland, Mr. Hamid from Glacier Tour Company picked us up from our accommodation in Reykjavik downtown with a comfortable Toyota RAV4 four-wheel drive vehicle. Before arriving in Iceland, we had already planned this private tour with Glacier, and this experience was sold for around 1,200 euros. Hamid is an insider in Iceland, and he is really interested in landscape photography like us. The connection between us started very naturally from the first minutes of the journey. It did not feel like a standard guide and tourist relationship. It felt more like three travelers sharing stories before a long road adventure. For the next 2 full days, we would explore Iceland's incredible natural beauty together, places that are already famous around the world, but still felt undiscovered through our own eyes and our own camera. As two brothers who have traveled to more than 80 countries, this road trip also made Hamid excited, because he understood that we were not just collecting locations, we were looking for the atmosphere, the details, and the honest Iceland reality behind the postcard images. The weather was cloudy, rain was starting and stopping, and from the first kilometers outside Reykjavik, the landscape began changing constantly. One moment we were passing green mountains and soft hills, then dry plains and lakes appeared, and far in the distance, snow-covered mountains created the kind of Iceland 4K scenery that looks almost too cinematic to be real. Our first stop was Thingvellir National Park, one of the most important places in any serious Iceland travel guide. The park itself is free to enter, but if you arrive by car, you need to pay around 7 euros for parking. What makes this place special is not only the landscape, but also the fact that in the year 930 AD, Iceland's national parliament, the Althing, was founded here, and it is widely accepted as one of the oldest parliaments in the world. As we started walking along the wooden platforms, the first thing that caught my attention was the unusual rock formations rising around us. This was not a place that immediately tries to impress you with one single dramatic view. Instead, it slowly builds its power with history, silence, water, stone, and space. On one side, Thingvallavatn, Iceland's largest natural lake, stretched across the landscape, and around it, the lagoon-like water areas created a calm but almost mysterious atmosphere. Between those lagoons, a small church appeared, and next to it stood the historic building known as the King's House, which is now used as a summer residence for Icelandic prime ministers. Walking there with tourists from all around the world, I had this strange feeling that we were all moving through a place where Iceland's political identity and natural identity meet in the same frame. The walking route inside Thingvellir National Park was carefully designed with wooden and metal platforms, stairs, and pathways, while still protecting the natural texture of the area. But what makes this place truly unforgettable is that it sits inside a rift valley between the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates. These plates move away from each other by about 2 centimeters every year, and over time, this movement created deep cracks and canyons, including the famous Almannagjá. Usually, geological facts can feel distant or academic, but here you actually feel them under your feet. You are not just hearing about continents separating, you are walking through the visible scar of that movement. Because of its political, cultural, and geological importance, Thingvellir became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2004. And this is where the day started becoming more than a simple Golden Circle drive. because our first stop already combined ancient history, living geology, and one of Iceland's most iconic landscapes in a way that few places in the world can. One of the most popular activities in this area is swimming or snorkeling in the Silfra Crack, where glacial water fills the space between the tectonic plates and offers underwater visibility of up to 100 meters. Because of Thingvellir, the area is extremely rich in water, and you feel that throughout the walk. Down in the lower lagoon area, and also along the walking route, small streams flowed between the rocks and added a peaceful sound to the entire visit. The route itself was not very tiring, and I think most visitors can complete it easily. But one thing I did not like was that it did not feel fully wheelchair friendly in every section. There are stairs, uneven surfaces, and parts where accessibility is limited, so this is one of those Iceland travel tips that actually matters before you arrive. Thingvellir is not a difficult walk, but you should wear proper shoes, dress for wind and rain, and remember that in Iceland, even a simple walking route can feel completely different depending on the weather. The final point of our walking route inside Thingvellir National Park was Öxarárfoss Waterfall, created where the Öxará River falls from Almannagjá. And finally, this beautiful waterfall that I had also visited 4 years earlier was right in front of us again. It was not just another waterfall stop for me. It was one of those rare travel moments where the past and present meet in the same place. This area is also known as one of the filming locations of Game of Thrones, which adds another layer of excitement for many visitors. But for me, the strongest feeling was returning to a scene I already had in my memory. I asked my brother to take a photo of me in the exact same place where I had taken a photo 4 years ago. After photographing and filming the waterfall and its surroundings from different angles, we completed our first stop on the Golden Circle. Hamid, who had separated from us earlier, picked us up by car from the parking area just below the waterfall, and we continued toward our second destination. And honestly, the next part of the route was where I started to understand why doing this day with the right vehicle and the right plan can change the entire experience. As we continued driving, we really started to feel that we were moving deeper into the countryside. Along the road, smaller buildings, rural farmlands, and fenced agricultural areas became more visible. For our second stop, we entered a road that was not in the best condition, and once again, we felt that choosing a private tour instead of renting a car had been the right decision for us. This is one of the honest parts of Iceland travel that many videos do not show clearly enough. An Iceland road trip can look incredibly romantic from the outside, but road quality, changing weather, parking, navigation and fatigue can make it more stressful than expected. Our second stop was Bruarfoss Waterfall, a destination that is not included in many standard package tours, and that was exactly why I was excited to see it. After Thingvellir, which is famous, historic and busy, Bruarfoss felt like the opposite, smaller, quieter, less polished and much more personal. Bruarfoss Waterfall may not have the dramatic height or classic shape of some other Icelandic waterfalls, but even though it is only around 3 meters high, the bright glacial water flows with such force and color that it creates a completely different kind of visual beauty. This is not a waterfall that overwhelms you with size. It catches you with movement, texture, and that almost unreal blue tone in the water. In many places in Iceland, flying a drone is forbidden and there can be serious penalties, but here from a quiet corner, I had the chance to fly my drone and capture a few beautiful angles. The wooden bridge over the waterfall gives visitors a great viewpoint, and it is also one of the best spots for taking a memorable photo. Entrance to Bruarfoss is free, but parking costs around €5. We spent a short time here filming the waterfall from different angles while waiting for lunchtime to approach. For me, Bruarfoss was one of the most rewarding Iceland hidden gems on this route, not because it was the biggest stop of the day, but because it gave the Golden Circle a quieter and more intimate feeling. Right after Bruarfoss, we visited Efstidalur, a family-run farm located very close to the waterfall. This place has been operated by a local family for generations, and while it is still a working farm with livestock, it also offers a cafe, restaurant, and even farmhouse-style accommodation across its large land. After watching the cattle during feeding time for a while, we went upstairs to the restaurant. Many tourists visiting the surrounding area also stop here for lunch, and we had burgers made with prime beef. The burgers were around 25 euros and soft drinks were around 3 to 4 euros. It was not a cheap lunch, but in Iceland, especially in a touristic countryside location, this kind of price did not surprise me. If you are traveling on an Iceland budget, this is the kind of decision you need to make during the day. Do you want the full farm restaurant experience? Or do you prefer to bring supermarket snacks and save money for other parts of the trip? I personally enjoyed the atmosphere, because after waterfalls, rocks, rain, and wind, sitting inside a warm farm restaurant made the route feel more human. But the day was not slowing down, because our next stop was one of those natural events where everyone stands still, cameras ready, waiting for the exact same second. After lunch, we stopped for a short time on the farm road to film the Icelandic horses, famous for their long manes and unique appearance. These horses are such a strong part of Iceland's countryside atmosphere that even a quick stop can make an Iceland travel vlog feel more real and less like a checklist. Then we continued along the Golden Circle route, and this is where I think many first-time visitors need to understand one important difference. The Golden Circle is not the same thing as Ring Road Iceland. The Ring Road is a much longer Iceland road trip around the entire country, while the Golden Circle is a realistic one-day route from Reykjavik. So, if you are planning your first Iceland itinerary, this route gives you a strong taste of the country without committing to several days of driving. For us, that balance was perfect. Enough time on the road to feel the countryside, but not so much driving that the day became exhausting. And just when the rhythm of the road started to feel calm, our next stop turned the whole day into a waiting game with everyone standing still, cameras ready, watching the ground for the next eruption. Our next stop was one of the most famous and most curious destinations in Iceland, Geysir Geothermal Area. This is the place many people imagine when they think of Geysir Iceland, boiling water, steam rising from the ground, and crowds of visitors standing in a circle, all waiting for nature to perform. Geysers are active in only a small number of countries, and seeing one erupt in real life feels much more exciting than watching it in a short clip online. Here, the geyser erupts every 5 to 10 minutes, throwing boiling water and steam into the air. The water column usually reaches around 20 to 40 meters high. My personal recommendation is simple. Put your phone or camera into slow motion mode and keep watching the water carefully. Around 5 to 10 seconds before the eruption, you can usually notice strong movement on the surface, and that is when everyone suddenly becomes quiet and focused. Sometimes, if you wait longer, the eruption can be much higher and more impressive. Other times, it surprises you with a smaller burst only a few meters high. Entrance to Geysir Geothermal Area is free, and parking costs around 7 euros. There are also several tourist facilities around the area where you can eat, take a break, or even stay overnight. And after watching water shoot into the sky, the next stop brought us back to the ground, but with a force that you could hear before you could even properly see it. After Geysir, we continued along the Golden Circle route, and after a short 9-minute drive, we arrived at Gullfoss, one of the biggest and most powerful waterfalls in the country. I had visited Gullfoss 4 years earlier, but even when you return to a place like this, it does not feel ordinary. The first thing you notice is not the view, it is the sound. Before the waterfall fully opens in front of you, you already hear its deep, heavy roar, almost like the landscape is breathing through the canyon. Gullfoss is also historically important for Iceland. In the early 20th century, the area was leased for the construction of a hydroelectric power plant, but Sigríður Tómasdóttir, the daughter of the landowner, fought to protect the untouched nature of the waterfall. Standing there today, watching the water disappear into the canyon, it is easy to understand why this place had to be protected. There are wide viewing terraces that give you panoramic views from above, but there is also a walking path that takes you very close to the waterfall. From every angle, Gullfoss Waterfall gives a different frame. Wide, dramatic, misty, powerful, and constantly changing with the light and weather. For photography lovers, it is one of the strongest stops on the route. But for me, the real experience was not just visual, it was physical. You feel the sound, the wind, and the spray all at once. The canyon where Gullfoss flows is around 2.5 kilometers long, and the walls reach up to 70 meters high. The waterfall has two main drops. The first is 11 meters, and the second is 21 meters, giving it a total height of 32 meters. But beyond the numbers, there are a few important things to know before visiting. First, flying a drone here is forbidden, and even if it were allowed, the strong wind and the heavy spray coming from the waterfall would make it dangerous. Second, the area has wooden and metal walking platforms and steps connecting different viewpoints, which makes the visit well organized, but you still need to be careful because the ground can be wet and slippery. Gullfoss is partially wheelchair friendly. The upper level has accessible parking close to the falls, a paved pathway, and a viewing deck, but not every part of the area is equally accessible. Entrance to all sections of Gullfoss is free, and like many other stops on this route, the parking fee is around €7. This is one of the most important stops on any Golden Circle Iceland tour, and even though it is popular, busy, and very touristic, it still earns its reputation. But after such a powerful and crowded place, our final stop gave us something completely different: silence. Even though the sun does not set very early in Iceland during June, we were now moving toward our final destination of the day. After an 18-minute drive, we reached Faxafoss Waterfall. The area was very quiet, and because many day tours do not visit this hidden waterfall, we had the chance to enjoy it in a much more peaceful way. After the crowds and power of Gullfoss, Faxafoss felt almost like a calm closing scene to the day. Using the silence and open space, I finally managed to do one of the drone flights that I could not do during most of the route. Faxafoss has a drop of around 7 meters and a width of about 80 meters. It does not have the dramatic force of Gullfoss, but it has a softer, wider flow that spreads a light mist and feeds the surrounding nature. One of the most interesting features of Faxafoss is the special fish ladder built for salmon to migrate upstream. Both entrance and parking were completely free here. This was not the most famous waterfall of the day, but it was one of the most relaxing moments, and it reminded me that sometimes the quieter stops stay in your memory in a different way. After a short but peaceful final stop at Faxafoss, we started our return journey to Reykjavik. On the way back, we passed through landscapes that felt quite different from the route we had taken earlier in the day. Sometimes the scenery became more wooded, and sometimes we passed through areas with more geothermal land. This is one of the things I loved most about this Golden Circle experience. Even between the famous stops, Iceland never really becomes boring from the car window. The geography keeps shifting, and the road itself becomes part of the story. After around 1.5 hours of driving, plus about 15 minutes of city traffic during rush hour, we returned to the starting point of our 10-hour Golden Circle tour. By the end of the day, I understood something clearly. This route is not just a collection of famous places. It is a full-day Iceland travel experience where history, geology, waterfalls, food, countryside, weather, and small personal moments all become part of the same memory. Now let's talk about the Iceland cost breakdown for this day, because the Golden Circle can feel very different depending on how you travel. Our private Glacigo tour was normally sold for around €1,200, and for this collaboration, the full tour expenses were covered by the tour company, including transportation, parking, flexibility, and local guidance. During the day, the only things we personally paid for were our lunch and drinks at Efstidalur, where the prime beef burgers were around 25 euros each and soft drinks were around 3 to 4 euros. So if you are planning this route on an Iceland budget, the biggest difference will not be the entrance fees because most stops are free, but your transportation choice, private tour, group tour, rental car, or bringing your own snacks to reduce daily costs. So, is the Golden Circle worth visiting? For a first-time visitor, yes, absolutely. Thingvellir National Park, Geysir Geothermal Area and Gullfoss are famous for a reason. And adding Bruarfoss Waterfall and Faxafoss makes the day feel less like a standard tourist route and more like a personal Iceland itinerary. But I would not recommend rushing it with a huge group tour if you care about photography, filming, or enjoying the silence of the landscapes. I did it with a private tour, but you can also do it with a rental car, a small group tour, or a cheaper Golden Circle Iceland tour, depending on your budget and travel style. My honest advice is this: do not only chase the famous stops, add at least 1 or 2 quieter places, because that is where the real Iceland, what to know moments often happen. The famous stops show you why Iceland is popular, but the quieter stops show you why people keep coming back. That was our 10-hour Golden Circle journey from Reykjavik famous stops, hidden gems, real costs, and my honest Iceland travel tips from the road. If this video helped you plan your own trip, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to the channel. You can find the best deals and useful travel links for your Iceland trip in the description below. And by following this Iceland travel series, you can plan your Reykjavik, Golden Circle, and South Coast itinerary in the smoothest way possible.